Everything that we see is there because of love. Because of the love of God, obviously. And God has been, since the creation of human beings, God has been after human beings through God's love. We read, for example, in Jeremiah, the 3rd chapter, chapter 31, verse 3. I have loved you with an everlasting love. Isn't that beautiful? I have loved you, God says, with an everlasting love. Then in Hosea, we read in Hosea 11:4, I led them with cords of human kindness, with ties of love. I led them with cords of human kindness, with ties of love. The world was saved, and the world is being saved. Here that I say both. The world was saved, and the world is being saved by and through the love of God. It was love what made possible the death and the resurrection of Christ. I want to warn you, all of a sudden my mouth is so dry, I cannot even speak. I want to warn you that the words of this passage, 1 Corinthians 13, and the message will not be easy to swallow. Warning. This verse of the Bible, 1 Corinthians 13, is notably used through history, at least modern history, in weddings. And couples who are getting wed and pastors, they love to use this passage in weddings. But this verse is actually the most important guide on how to be a human. The most important guide on how to be a human being. So, 1 Corinthians 13 verses 1 through 8 begin like this. If I speak the tongues of humans and angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. That's verse 1. I notice very importantly, you can see that the text, the first verse, begin by saying, if I speak. And I think the reason why the apostle began that verse by saying, if I speak, is because of what Vicky was saying. Because we love to speak, or we love to speak love. And often we don't go farther than that, than speaking love or speaking about love. But the apostle says that even if I speak in the most magnificent ways, even if I, for example, the Corinthians claim that they didn't claim, they do, let me correct that. They speak in special tongues or have the capacity to speak other languages, whatever the theological way you want to approach it. Even if they do that, but if they don't have love, Paul says, they are a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. What happened, the reason why he mentioned the noisy gong or the clanging cymbal is because those were instruments used in the worship of idols in that place where the apostle lived. And the particularity of those instruments is that they could not create harmony. They could not create harmony. They were just clack, 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 noisy. And so if we don't have love, that's pretty much how we sound. Verse 2 says, and if I have prophetic powers, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith as so to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. What the apostle means by if I have prophetic powers is more or less, we mostly agree today, that what he refers as prophetic powers is preaching. So the apostle will be saying, even if I am the best of preachers, the prince of preachers, or even if I understand all mysteries, even if I am given the capacity to understand quantum science or any of those sciences, or if I know or have knowledge above a normal human being, even if my IQ is beyond 141, is that like the top, I guess, or 141? But then it goes further. It says, even if I have all faith, even if my faith is pure, even if my faith is solid, even if I am unmovable, referring to God, in relationship to God. Such faith, Paul says, as being able to move mountains. But I don't have love, I am nothing. And the word nothing is very powerful, because the word nothing in the Greek, the original language, what it means is that he or she becomes a non-entity. He or she becomes a non-entity. Or in more simpler words, we could say there is no value or valuable purpose for that life. It's like if it doesn't exist. If I don't have love. Verse 3, if I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. And so I'm going to give stop a little bit more in the next descriptions of love that comes after that. It's a list of about 9-10 characteristics of love. The first one says love is patient. Love is patient. And this patience refers to people. Okay? It doesn't refer to other circumstances in life. The check has not arrived. When is the check going to arrive? I need that money. It's not referring to that kind of patience. Or it's patience with other people that is talking here. I read something very interesting as I was preparing for the sermon. You probably don't remember this name, but someone by the name Edwin Stanton. Edwin Stanton was a political figure during the Lincoln years, during Lincoln government. And among other things, they have a very troublesome relationship, to say, Lincoln and Stanton. And among other things that Stanton has said about Lincoln, he said Lincoln is a low cunning clown. Another time he said Lincoln is the original gorilla. And he even said that there was a famous gorilla hunter these days, and he said, Why does such and such, I don't remember the name, goes to Africa to hunt gorillas when we have such a great and big gorilla here in D.C.? That's the way he loved Lincoln. You know what Lincoln did? He named him Secretary of War. So Edwin Stanton became the Secretary of War in the Lincoln administration. Why? Because he was the most qualified person for that position. I finished saying that on the night that Lincoln was assassinated, killed, on the night of Lincoln assassination, Stanton entered the room in the theater where Lincoln's body was laid. And he said, "There lies the greatest ruler of men the world hath ever seen." Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is kind. Origen, who is one of the fathers of the church. Fathers of the church were those who came after the apostles, who were the brightest theologians, and they are called the fathers of the church. Origen was one of the most famous ones. He said about this, love is kind. He says what this means is, be sweet to everyone. Be sweet to everyone. That's what to be kind means. Love is not envious. Love doesn't ask, why do others have that? Not necessarily, I want to have that, but even asking, do they deserve that? Why do they have that and I don't? Why does such person who is this and that has that privilege and those blessings and I don't? Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. True love will focus on its own unworthiness. True love is humble. True love is humble. True love does not insist in its own way, my way or the highway. True love does not insist on its own way. The NIV version of the Bible says for this particular line, love is not self-seeking. It's not self-seeking. Another little story that I learned. It is said that Napoleon, the great general, always stressed the sanctity of the home and the obligation of public worship. You with me? So Napoleon, for him, he always highlighted the sanctity of the home, of the family, and the obligation of public worship. But of himself, he said, I am not a man like other men. The laws of morality does not apply to me. Love does not insist on its own way. Love is not self-seeking. In this world, there are two kinds of people. Those who are always thinking of what life owes them, and those who never forget what they owe to life. Love is not irritable. Is that what you say? Courtesy, tact, politeness are distinctiveness of love. Courtesy, tact, and politeness. Love keeps no record of wrongs. That's a difficult one, a very difficult one. The word record in the Greek, the word used in this verse, refers to a number that an accountant writes in a ledger because that number is important and it's written. Immediately he writes that number so he doesn't forget. And that's what we often do with the wrongs done to us. Love teach us to forget. Love teach us to forget. It's kind of like if love creates some kind of amnesia when it comes to wrong done to us. I told you this was a difficult word to hear. Love does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. Love finds no pleasure in anything that is wrong. Love finds no pleasure in anything that is wrong. More often than not, truth is the last thing we want to hear. But Christian love has no desire to hide the truth. Verse 7, I will read and I will not say much. Verse 7 says, it bears all things. Love bears all things. It believes all things. It believes all things. It hopes all things. And it takes or it endures all things. Finally, verse 8 says, love never. There are two different versions. One says love never ends. The other one says love never fails. Love never ends or love never fails. On 1 Corinthians 13:13, we read, and now faith, hope, and love remain. You've heard this three. And the greatest of these is love. That is very powerful. And I kind of heard again this message because I read this verse many times. Basically what Paul says, hope is super important. We talked about hope about 3 weeks ago. Faith. We have to be honest, for us, faith is probably the most important thing. But Paul says, love is about faith. Love is about faith. And so, if love is about faith, then we may need to rethink how do we witness as Christians. We may need to rethink how do we witness. Because let me tell you this, I think that others will know that you are a disciple of Jesus, or will be interested in hearing about Jesus. Not because you wear a cross. Not because, I don't know, this is not a Bible, but not because you carry a Bible. Not because of the clothes you wear. Not because of the books we read. Not because of the music we listen to. People will not be interested because of those things. Let me tell you a few more. Not because of what you do on Sunday morning. They will not be interested in Jesus because you give money to the church or charities. They will not want to know Jesus simply because of the movies or the news channel that we watch, or by the bumper sticker that you have in your car, or by your opinion on the latest political issue. Or they will not want to know about Jesus even because of the flag you fly in your home, or because of the way we vote. They will want to know about Jesus by the way you love and you care for them. Someone has said that lovelessness is the single biggest obstacle to effective witness in a community and in a nation. I'll say that again. Lovelessness is the single biggest obstacle to effective witness in a community or in a nation. I'll say more. God cannot use the loveless Christian for his glory. God cannot use a loveless Christian for his glory. I will end with this. They will know we are Christians by our love.